I was a parent before I was a coach. I was diagnosed really young, and then I re-educated myself about ADHD after my son was born. I jumped in and started writing. I got really lucky because I got to meet so many people. I got to meet Terry Matlin. I just got my book, the cover art for my book. And they put,
What?
because Terry Matlin wrote the foreword in my
Yes.
book, and they put
Uh-huh.
her on the front of it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know Terry's name. Anyway, I'm going to send it to her so she knows. But she already signed all of her paperwork. But anyway, yes, I started writing, and over time I just got to know everybody in ADHD. And then I took coaching classes when it became obvious to me that I was spending a lot of money on this ADHD thing, and I should probably try to pay my own bills at least. So that's why I took the coaching classes. Yeah.
Do you have your book there? Do you have the cover of it?
I they just
No.
sent me the proofs of it. It's not even
Ah,
done yet, so I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to share with people and what I'm not.
what's your topic of your book?
It's late diagnosed women with ADHD.
Ah,
Yeah.
for me, I want people to start thinking if you're diagnosed after 8, it's late.
You know what's funny is when people ask me that question, they'll say, I late. And I'll say, anytime after a point which you think it would have been helpful to know, which is very wide open. You're right. Anytime after middle school, when things really become, for a lot of young girls, when things really become hard, that adolescent phase, I feel like anybody who isn't recognized by then, I think it's late for people.
And I think we think it's late after 8 because the girl is already doing a number on herself with her
Mhm.
self-talk and feeling different and not fitting in. So there's already damage. I always say it'd be best to be diagnosed at birth, but we don't know how to do that.
True. True. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up because that is something that I tried to get into in the book. And I had to be balanced in my approach, but I had to explain why my argument for earlier identification was important. So there is a lot of stuff in there about why and how young girls are overlooked.
All right, so you jumped in and wrote a letter for us to your younger self. So what made you oh, I guess it ties into the book you're writing.
It does. But I think I felt, especially the last, I have started to really feel like, in a way, I had such an advantage finding out when I did. And I found out very indirectly. It was a surprise to everybody, but
But how old were you when you found out?
the summer I turned 11 or 12. And I found out because my little brother, my mom was a speech path. So she worked with school psychologists and she knew a lot. And my stepfather died unexpectedly. And my little brother was having a lot of problems in preschool. And so my mom needed to get him diagnosed because she all of a sudden became a single mother. And I was just along for the ride. We were going to family therapy because he died. So within 6 weeks, he had a brain
Yes.
tumor and he just died. And so my mom, we were going to therapy and my brother needed a diagnosis. And then when I asked her about it, actually, she told me that she knew what they were going to say about him. But when they told her about me, she was like, I could have fallen off the chair.
It wasn't
You know,
by doing rating skills or anything. It was just people observing you that said you had it too.
yeah, we did the whole process though, because I was starting middle school and my stepfather died like in September when I started middle school. And my mom had made appointments for us to go to the doctor. What she did with me was she's in a gifted program and her academics are B's and C's, but my stepfather just died. But then they did do a full assessment.
Yeah, I talked with another committed partner, and she went for some kind of assessment because her dad had dementia. She wanted to see if she was inheriting it. Ended up saying to her, "You don't have dementia, but you do have ADHD." She was a pediatrician working with ADHD for 30 years and never thought of
Yeah.
it herself. I almost am at the point where if you like hanging out with people that have a neurodivergent condition, you probably have one too.
The reason I said I would write the essay was because I've become very sensitive to the fact that being diagnosed when you're 11 or 12, it was hard. It was used against me a lot. Even in my own family, there were no accommodations in 1991. You don't inconvenience anybody with this thing that you have. It was like that. But now that I'm an adult, I realize that I had so many years to test it and integrate it into my sense of self. I got the whole way through college because I knew. I knew what was going on with me. I knew why I couldn't stand those nighttime lab classes, why I had to take medication. I knew. In a lot of ways,
Understanding is huge. That's
yeah,
a
I've become more sensitive because everybody I've ever had in coaching or in community, every woman I've worked with was not diagnosed when they were young like me. I've become a lot more sensitive to the stories of women who were overlooked. When you put it out that you were doing this, I was like, I want to do that. I offered and you said I could. And I was like, okay.
I'm wondering how many women we could find that got diagnosed young.
In my clients, I have worked with college age girls who were diagnosed in high school, maybe,
Mm,
or in college when they started to struggle in college. High school is still fairly structured, but when you go to college and have to create your own schedule,
yes.
I've met a couple that were diagnosed between 15 and 20. I do know one woman who was diagnosed in the 90s, like I was, and she's a year within my age range, within a year or two.
Oh. What was the motivation for you to write the letter?
I am weird that way. I just wanted to see if I could, or
Huh.
I wanted to see if it would be acceptable for somebody who was diagnosed young to contribute. I was waiting for someone to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. I still wait for that every
Oh,
day.
I'm sorry, but every letter that got submitted, I didn't read. I just had AI see if there was any major issue. I thought it was going to be too much of an emotional load to read all those letters at one time. So I tried to read them just in the advance of each interview. I imagine it wasn't a big deal for you to sit down and write the letter. Were you sitting around thinking about what would be in the letter, or did it just flow out of you?
I think I read the
Yeah,
example.
I had my example there, and then we had prompts, questions.
I took the questions that I felt I could answer the most easily and I answered them. And then I was like, oh, this has to actually look like a letter. It was pretty straightforward.
Uh,
My whole concern, though, was that people would be like, why is she doing this?
You've been writing a lot. When I first got diagnosed, I wrote a lot too for a newsletter. That was almost like my therapy. In writing this letter, did anything new come up for you? Any new insights, any new understandings?
One of the things, and I almost never say it out loud to anybody.
Are you going to say it now?
I am. One of the things I almost never admit out loud is that, like, people will often say, if I had just known, if I had just known,
Oh,
things would have been different. And I always think to myself, I knew, and things were still not peachy. I knew. And like I said, there were definite advantages in my ability to integrate it into my life. But also, I would never say that I had it good or I had it easy or that knowing made all the difference.
right.
Because honestly, I still feel, even working in ADHD, I still feel lost. I still feel like I'm behind all my peers. I have trouble admitting that because on one hand, it's like I'm insecure about it. Oh, you were diagnosed young. You had this like big advantage. And I'm like, did I though? Did I though? I don't know. I never admit that. But that is something that came up when I was trying to write it for you. I was like, how do I say this in a nice way?
Yeah, although I think the diagnosis is important, I don't think that's the whole thing.
Oh,
I
no.
knew my son had ADHD, but I didn't know everything that people know now about how to support a child with ADHD. I wasn't the best parent for a child with ADHD.
There were no accommodations. It
So
was take this medicine and deal with it. Never tell anyone. The meds helped me, but I also did feel like I had to perform quite a bit. People didn't understand the concept of 2E or like twice exceptional. To be a kid that was placed in like a gifted program in second grade and to find it out in sixth grade, middle school, they didn't compute for people. No.
they thought that ADHD would really make it hard for you to be a good student.
What's funny is the student stuff was never the hard stuff for me. For the most part, it really wasn't hard for me. I did not get a lot of wraparound care. My brother, very hyperactive, impulsive, had a lot of problems in school. The focus was on managing that. And I was just supposed to be a nice girl who did well in school and went to college and made her parents proud. That was it.
Back then, we counted on the medicine to do everything.
Yes, yes.
Here's
I had wonderful doctors, though. To this day, the man who diagnosed me, I have very fond memories of him. I did not have bad experiences with the doctors, but yeah, in terms of my life and my family, it was not easier. It was not.
Did you have any aspirations for your letter, for putting it in this book? You
Aspirations,
think,
I'm always looking for more women to connect with and build community with. Our lives are all online now. I feel very isolated sometimes.
Ah,
I was just hoping that the other women contributing all had something in common.
you're looking for a community of other women that were late diagnosed
Yeah,
specifically. There are online Facebook groups for that.
yeah, I just don't use Facebook much anymore, but I always want more people to read what I'm writing. My Substack is free for the most part. I always want more people on the Substack. I don't know. I think I did it impulsively.
But that we benefited from that impulse. What is your writing method?
I tend to write a lot first and then edit later, usually in two sittings, but it depends on what I'm doing. If it's something where I need to cite sources, I'm a lot more careful. If I'm just writing something to give to you or even to put on the Substack, I just write the thing and then walk away from it. And then I make sure I still like it later. Because sometimes I'll look at something later and be like, I hate this. I'm not showing anyone
Huh,
this.
huh. Is there anything special that you hope people would learn from reading your letter?
Special. Just that don't believe for a minute that everything would have been different or your life would have been so much better or you would have been a different person if you had known earlier. Certain things would be different about you and your knowledge of it, but ADHD still happens within the context of your life. Whether you known about it forever or you just found out 6 months ago, it's still going to be there. Don't feel like you can't become whoever or whatever version of yourself that you want because you found out later. This isn't a limiting factor for you.
A book I really responded to has that theme where this woman is not happy with her life. She goes to the library and gets involved in a book where she can make choices again. She goes back and relives her life and she makes different choices. She finds out every time when she chose the other thing, it wasn't any better.
I think I know what book you're talking about, the Midnight Library
Yes.
book. I love that book.
I just love that idea that we could all go back and think if this had been different or that had been different. But
Yeah.
ADHD, although it affects every aspect of your life, it is not your whole life.
You are still capable of almost anything you want within reach.
Yeah.
I've also known women who held on to anger that their parents or their teachers, the people in their life didn't notice. I've actually met women who did have some kind of evaluation in school, and their parents never consented to any accommodations. They just turned a blind eye and ignored it. I've met women who were very angry about that. And I just want people to take away, let's figure out in the here and now what is possible and where we want to try to go next.
I think the anger is appropriate, but not to stay in it. You do want to make the most of the time that's left.
Yeah. I write about that in my book, the different ways people emerge
Oh,
from a new diagnosis. I talk about it like a caterpillar emerging. There's a whole process a caterpillar goes through. I call it eating your insides, and you emerge as this new thing.
do you have any sentence you'd like to share with girls growing up today with ADHD?
Mostly that being different doesn't make you other or bad, or you're not bad. You're not selfish. That's a big one with young girls, being told they're selfish or self-centered. It is just a part of you. It is not going to define you. One of my big beefs is trying to tell young women who they are. I don't like it when adults, young women, who they are, what they're capable of, what they deserve, or where their life is going to go. Don't let people tell you what you can or can't do. Know yourself. If that means you need to talk to a therapist or a close friend or whatever, try to figure out who you are. Don't let people take that away from you or try to convince you otherwise.
I've interviewed one woman and she's happy she's different. That's where I'm hoping the future goes.
We're taught from such a young age that being different isn't cute or quirky. I hope that difference and invisible differences become less stigmatized. Every time I go into a group and I say, who here knew they were different in some way from the time you were little? And everyone's, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Everyone who has an undiagnosed neurodivergent condition
yeah.
grows up feeling different without knowing why. Once they get the why, it makes a huge difference. You didn't like being different, but once you know you're different, once it's confirmed, you have no problem with it.
That's sometimes true. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we need a few others to be like us, so we're not totally by ourselves. But other than that, it's fine.
You're never alone. You don't have to look backward, you can look forward. It's okay to be different. There's lots of us out here just
Yeah.
waiting to be friends and waiting to form community around you. I believe much more in the collective power of all of us than in individual solutions. You don't have to be on this treadmill of self improvement all the time. You don't have to adopt every video, every podcast you listen to. You don't have to do all those things. You have to be part of our larger community, and you're enough. You don't have to fix yourself.
Thank you, Liz.